You ever feel like you're speaking a totally different language than like your parents or like your younger siblings are like from another planet? Well, get this. There's actual science behind those generational gaps. Today, we're diving deep into the world of generational names. And trust me, it's way more than just like astrology.
Yeah, it's true. The way we understand and label generations, it's deeply rooted in social science.
Okay.
Each generation is shaped by the events and technology and cultural shifts that dominated their world during like their key formative years.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of each generation, I got to ask, when did this whole generation thing even start? It feels like it's like always been around.
You might be surprised to learn that the concept of like formally naming generations, it's actually pretty recent.
Really?
Before the 20th century, people didn't categorize age groups with the same like cultural weight that we do today. Imagine trying to explain millennials to someone from like the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
It would be like speaking a different language.
So what changed? What sparked this shift in how we view age groups?
Well, World War II was a major turning point.
Okay.
After the war ended, there was a huge surge in births, hence the term baby boomers, for those born between 1946 and 1964.
Okay.
This boom was so significant, it really kickstarted the trend of formally labeling and studying generations.
Ah, the baby boomers.
Right.
It makes sense that such a massive demographic shift would have a mark on things.
Yeah.
So you're saying that each generation is basically a snapshot of the world at that time, like a time capsule
That's a great way to put it.
of like cultural trends and events?
Each generation's name reflects the dominant forces shaping their world. For example, baby boomers experienced like post-war optimism and economic prosperity.
Okay.
While Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980, they faced economic downturns and the rise of personal computers, which definitely shaped their outlook.
It's fascinating how these external forces can have such a like profound impact on a whole generation's mindset.
It is.
Okay, so let's break down each generation. Let's start with the baby boomers. What were some of the defining characteristics of this generation?
Well, as we mentioned, baby boomers benefited from a period of like post-war economic growth. They witnessed the rise of suburbia, the expansion of like the American middle class,
Okay.
a sense of societal optimism that kind of permeated those early years.
Right.
They were also the generation that came of age during the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement, which, you know, ignited their passion for social change and activism.
So it sounds like those formative years were a mix of both prosperity and like social upheaval. Did that create any internal tension within the generation?
Absolutely. While baby boomers enjoyed like unprecedented economic opportunity, they also grappled with the realities of war and social injustice and political assassinations.
Yeah.
Think about the impact of events like the assassination with JFK. This created a complex dynamic within the generation, shaping their values and worldviews in like profound ways.
It's incredible to think how those events still resonate today.
It is.
Like even shaping how we understand the generations that came after.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's move on to Generation X. What were some of the defining characteristics of this group?
Gen X, often dubbed the latchkey generation,
Okay.
due to rising divorce rates and like both parents working.
Right.
They grew up in the shadow of the baby boomers' prosperity, but faced a much different reality.
Yeah.
They witnessed economic recessions, the energy crisis, and a sense of kind of disillusionment with traditional institutions. Think about it. They saw the Watergate scandal unfold. They experienced the Cold War anxieties.
Oh, wow.
And came of age during the rise of MTV and punk rock. Talk about a cultural shift.
Wow, that does sound like a totally different vibe than the baby boomers.
It is.
It's interesting how their exposure to those events might have contributed to the stereotype of Gen X being cynical or skeptical.
You're right. There's a correlation there.
Okay.
They witnessed a lot of social and economic upheaval,
Right.
which likely fostered a more pragmatic and independent outlook.
Yeah.
Plus, this is where technology really starts to play a significant role.
Okay.
Gen X were the early adopters of personal computers and video games,
Oh, yeah.
which had a huge impact on how they interacted with the world.
Right. They were the ones figuring out like dial-up modems and floppy disks while the rest of us were still trying to like figure out how to program the VCR. Do you think that early exposure to tech played a role in shaping their like independent streak?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gen X, they had to be resourceful and adaptable to navigate this new technological landscape.
Right.
They weren't afraid to experiment, to question authority, and to forge their own path.
Which brings us to my generation, the millennials.
Yes.
We're the ones who grew up with the internet, like as a given right.
That's right.
No more dial-up lows for us.
Millennials, born between 1981 and 1996, came of age during the dot-com boom and the explosion of the internet.
Yeah.
You're the first truly digital generation, comfortable with technology, constantly connected.
Yeah, we practically grew up with a smartphone in one hand and a laptop in the other.
Right.
But let's be real. All that connectivity came with its own set of challenges.
Oh, yeah.
We also faced the 9/11 attacks, the 2008 financial crisis, and a whole lot of student loan debt.
You're hitting on some key points there.
Yeah.
Millennials entered adulthood during a time of economic instability and global uncertainty.
Right.
The 2008 recession, in particular, had a significant impact on your generation's financial stability and, career prospects.
Oh, don't remind me about the housing market.
In fact, a study by the Pew Research Centre found that millennials are the first generation in modern history to have lower level of wealth and homeownership than their parents at the same age.
Okay, so we've got baby boomers shaped by post-war optimism, Gen X facing economic uncertainty and embracing technology, and then millennials navigating the digital world while grappling with economic challenges. What comes next in this generational timeline?
Well, after millennials comes Generation Z.
Okay.
Born between 1997 and 2012. They're the true digital natives.
Okay.
Having grown up entirely in the age of smartphones, social media, and instant connectivity.
Ah, Gen Z. The ones who can make a TikTok video go viral before I even figure out how to open the app, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. What else sets them apart from the previous generations?
One of the most striking things about Gen Z is their focus on social justice and mental health awareness.
Yeah.
They've grown up witnessing movements like Black Lives Matter and #MeToo.
Right.
And they're not afraid to challenge societal norms and advocate for change.
That's so true. They're incredibly vocal about the issues that they care about. And they're not afraid to hold those in power accountable. It's actually quite inspiring to see.
It is.
What about their relationship with technology? They're even more digitally savvy than millennials, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For Gen Z, technology isn't just a tool. It's an extension of themselves. They're fluent in the language of the internet, and they're constantly consuming and creating digital content.
Right.
In fact, studies have shown that Gen Z has a shorter attention span than previous generations, likely due to their constant exposure to, rapidly changing digital stimuli.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Right.
And a little scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
So what's the impact of all that screen time?
Well, there's a growing body of research exploring the cognitive and social effects of constant digital immersion.
Right.
Some studies suggest that it can lead to increased anxiety and depression and difficulty with face-to-face interactions.
We're all part of a giant social experiment, and we're just starting to see the results.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Are there any other generations on the horizon?
Yes.
Are we going to run out of letters in the alphabet soon?
Actually, we're already starting to see the emergence of Generation Alpha.
Okay.
Born from 2010 onwards.
Okay.
This generation is growing up in a world where artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality are becoming increasingly integrated into everyday life.
Wait, so they're going to be interacting with, robots and holograms like it's no big deal?
Right.
What's that going to do to their brains?
That's the million-dollar question.
Wow.
Researchers are already starting to study how this constant exposure to advanced technology is shaping their cognitive development.
Right.
It's likely that Gen Alpha will have different ways of learning, processing information, and interacting with the world compared to previous generations.
This is blowing my mind. So we've got AI babies on the way?
Right.
Is there anyone after them? Generation Beta?
You got it.
Wow.
Generation Beta is the cohort that's just starting to be born from the mid-2020s onward.
Okay.
Now, this is where things get really futuristic.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What kind of world are these Generation Beta kids going to inherit?
Imagine a world where the lines between the physical and digital are even more blurred. Think advanced robotics, personalized medicine, biotech advancements.
Whoa.
It's like something out of a science fiction movie.
Whoa, hold on. Are we talking flying cars and teleportation here?
Who knows?
What about climate change? Won't that have a massive impact on their lives?
You're raising some crucial points.
Yeah.
Generation Beta will face unprecedented challenges: climate change, resource scarcity, social and political upheaval.
Right.
But they'll also have access to incredible technological advancements that could help solve these problems. systems.
Okay.
The key will be how they choose to use those tools.
This is all pretty heavy stuff.
It is.
But why should we even care about these generational differences?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean for us in our, everyday lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Understanding these generational patterns helps us make sense of why people think and act the way they do.
Right.
It can improve your communication at work, with your family, even help you understand the news better.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for understanding people.
Exactly.
If I'm trying to communicate with someone from a different generation, I need to consider what was going on in the world when they were growing up.
Exactly.
Okay.
It helps you see the world from their perspective.
Oh, wow.
For example, a baby boomer who lived through the Cold War might have a different view on international relations than a millennial who grew up in a post-9/11 world.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It's like knowing their backstory helps you understand their current chapter. I'm already starting to see the people around me in, a new light.
It's really interesting, right?
It's like science is everywhere.
It is.
Even in how we interact with each other.
It really is. And the more we understand these generational influences, the better we can bridge those divides and work together to create a better future.
Right.
But for now,
okay,
let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll delve even deeper into each generation and explore some fascinating research on how these generational shifts are playing out in the real world.
Okay, cool.
Stay tuned.
A generation of space explorers? That seems like a giant leap from, TikTok and Instagram.
It might sound far-fetched, but with, the rapid advancements in space technology, it's entirely possible that generations